But you did the math. You did the math interview, right?
Yeah.
That was funny.
I was telling them I didn't expect him to struggle on the second equation. I knew he struggled on the derivative one, but
the first one.
he was struggling on the first one. I was like, oh my god.
No, it's not. It's
Dude,
not
I
a
started
joke.
like questioning myself. I was like, it's -1.
No,
right?
the answer he gave was so backwards. I redid the math in my head. I'm like, wait, am I washed? So I discovered a couple of weeks ago that your top laner struggles with multi-step algebra equations. What is 2 minus 4?
Oh, 6. Wait, no, hold up.
What was your reaction to seeing that clip on Twitter?
I was so not surprised. I've done a little bit of like really basic math questions to him just to like troll him, and math is not his strong suit. So I don't think PIMDOS is in his like
His vocabulary,
yeah, I
his
don't
arsenal.
think so. Yeah.
No, it's funny because when I was talking to him, we kind of boiled it down to LCS or nothing, but I think it quite literally was LCS or nothing.
Yeah,
I'm glad he's LCS because I don't want to see him be nothing. So I remember when the roster was first constructed, I believe it was either you or Spooks that had said to be patient with the roster, that it was intended to be this developmental roster with younger players like Sniper, Meech, Quid. So where on the timeline of development would you guys say you are right now?
Yeah, I think even specifically with Sniper, we're actually seeing a lot of the stuff we want out of him, like a lot of the growing pains. I feel like we're getting through it. I think he's still like having the sometimes like just now, even though we lost, he solo killed Bwipo game 1, and he's I think making better TP and team play. So I think especially for Sniper's development, we're honestly like ahead of where I thought we would be going into the year. Obviously, like after spring season, kind of expectations got kind of shifted a lot. But honestly, this split is kind of more the growing pains that I would have expected out of the first split.
Yeah, so I mean, personally, you're someone with a wealth of experience. You had a competitive career that was a little over 6 years, and then you eventually transitioned into coaching. It feels like coaching is one of those things where it's super hard to measure the impact of a coach. So what do you think the benefits are of having a coach that was a former player as opposed to maybe someone who didn't play that well competitively?
Yeah, so I think for the benefits of having a coach that is a former player, I think the main thing is just being able to relate to the experience. I think a lot of coaches who start as coaches, they don't really understand the player experience as well as someone who was actually living through it. And I think I've also seen a lot of different team dynamics from being a player of how players should communicate to each other and how like kind of just a team should be run. And I've got to see like teams that don't work. I've seen different I have a lot of different perspective based on my experience. So I think that helps a lot.
So would you say in that case that there's more on your plate when it comes to like helping them since you've been through those things, or would you say it's like the roles of a coach are pretty universal?
I think it's definitely there is a lot on a coach's plate because at the end of the day, you're responsible for everything that goes on within the team. I think that there's only so much you control even as a coach. Like you can give people advice and you can try to facilitate communication, but at the end of the day, it's like what people like, how much are they going to listen and how much they're going to apply. I think generally, especially like our rookie Sniper does a really good job of applying a lot of our feedback. And I find another big part of my responsibility is just trying to kind of like help them have a growth mindset and like kind of build the framework for them. I really see that as like my main goal or job.
Yeah, so if you had to like kind of predict where this team's going to be going forward, do you think that there's still going to be some growing pains going into like maybe even spring of next year, or do you think like you guys are going to start hitting your stride pretty soon?
Well, I really hope we start hitting our stride soon. I think versus Fly, we had game 1, we had a great comeback. Game 2 was a really close game. Game 3, we got blown out from lane phase. I think this week we did show progress and what we wanted, so I'm really hoping that we can continue that. And we kind of are at like a must-win situation now for our last 2 weeks. We play Immortals and Shopify, so essentially it's going to be like we need to hit our stride. We don't have an option. And I was kind of telling them about how the pressure is going to be higher now for the next 2 weeks.
Yeah, for sure. And on the topic of going into the future, from spring to summer, the biggest change was a transition from BO1 to BO3. And it feels like BO3 hasn't really been your guys' cup of tea. So why do you think that might be?
Yeah, so I mean, I think there's a lot more room for variance in BO1s where you hit one good draft and then you just play that one game and you win. Where in BO3s, right, it's like over and over and over. You can't like, we pulled out a lot of like cheese picks in BO1s as well. And I think that really helped catch people off guard. But now if we like catch someone off guard, it's also I think right now the meta's harder to even do that because the meta right now is just like 80 carry mids plus AP jungles like every game almost. So it's harder to like I would say like outplay people in draft, and I think like overall skill right like and experience when you have a best of three. If you have one really good game, because we have like high highs and low lows, I would say as a team. The low lows, if you have a low moment, you just like instantly lose the series. Not you don't instantly lose the series, but like one low moment can lose your whole game, like in game 2 or game 3 rather. So I think, yeah, just there's more variance in BO1s, which I think for a team like us, where we're like rookies and we're trying to develop a roster, it suits us better.
So in that case, would you say success in BO3 is indicative of a better team, or do you think there's like not that much of a difference in terms of like the takeaways?
I mean, I do think BO3s are like indicative of like a team that has like an overall higher floor for sure. Yeah.
So you say like a BO3 shows more of a floor, but maybe the ceiling isn't that much different, or do you think? It's
Yeah,
also...
I think that's fair to say. I mean, the ceiling is like maybe kind of same, but definitely like I think for our team, for example, we make a lot of unforced errors, like and we can just throw away one game in a whole series, which is like massive. Where like in BO1s, maybe we'll do that, but we'll only lose one game, but then we'll have high highs, we'll win a game. Like, if that makes sense, yeah. I think that's fair to say that it's a higher floor of what BO3 show.
So you previously coached DSG, and funny enough, you're not the only LCS coach that was on that team once upon a time.
Yeah.
IMT's and Era was also their coach. So why do you think DSG is so successful in developing LCS talent, both player-sided as well as coaches?
Yeah, I mean, I was already a coach for 2 years before I joined DSG, and I just kind of joined as a passion project. I think just inherently, like people want to play for that team because it's like a fun influencer team. So like they'll attract like the top talent that is in the and looking for the tier 2 league. So it's pretty natural that the top talent will go to like have a chance to promote. Is how I see it. Yeah.
So would you say you still follow much of tier 2, or do you not really watch that much anymore?
I follow, but not that much right now. We've been pretty busy like following just our own stuff.
Global tier 1.
Yeah.
I mean, do you watch enough to maybe make some predictions on who you think might be like the next big player out of tier 2, or are you not too sure about that?
No, I don't think I could like give an accurate read on that.
That's perfectly fine. So you guys are currently in a 3-way tie for last, with Immortals either joining you guys or they'll be tying with Energy at 4th. So while it isn't easy, playoffs is very much still possible. So what is the focus of 100 Thieves going into like the last couple games? As you said, you have 2 weeks, Immortals, Shopify. What is your guys' focus going into the next few weeks?
Yeah, so I mean, I think macro-wise and strategically what we've been working on, we showed progress, and I think we're going to continue to look to try to make more like proactive plays. I think typically something where we can get really behind is when we're trying to like react and we get behind and we're always just chasing the enemy's play. So that's something we're going to be focusing on, and I think also it's kind of like a fuck it, do or die situation now. Like, have no regrets, just go out there and play our best and be aggressive and do what you can because we have to, right? Where it's like back up, like how are we going to react with our backs up to the wall now? It's like we got to fight our way out.
Yeah, so some people like to say they perform better under pressure. Are you like excited for the pressure, or are you kind of like scared for what might happen?
That's a good question. For me personally, I don't mind it. I feel like I've been around for so long that like it's like something I'm used to. But we'll see how like the rookies react to it, right? Because I don't think they've been in this situation as much. So it's going to be kind of a lot of like I'll try to support them to my best ability and prepare them for what's happening, and we'll just see how they can go through it.